Ever notice how the harder someone polishes a halo, the more every scratch starts to glitter under the lights? One 30-second TikTok, just a flight attendant clutching a napkin, catapulted Meghan Markle back into the public's good graces. Or at least, that was the plan. When American Airlines crew member Nina Vida posted her viral clip on May 27, 2025, she gushed that the Duchess of Sussex was so beautiful, so kind, the Queen herself, before reading aloud a handwritten note, signed, "As ever, Meg." The internet swooned. Look, she flies commercial like the rest of us. Yet every airline employee who's memorized the confidentiality manual knew something was off. Naming a passenger on camera and flashing their note is grounds for immediate dismissal. Corporate PR's stone-faced silence only deepened the suspicion that the whole scene was choreographed. Because no one risks a career for a spontaneous fangirl moment unless someone important okayed it first. That single post blasted through 6 million views in 48 hours, but it also cracked open a vault of behind-the-scenes stories that tumbled out faster than drink carts in turbulence. Anonymous AA staffers, protected by intermediaries, described Meghan as hands down the worst celebrity passenger we've ever served. The kind who books an economy fare, demands a no-charge jump to first class, and ices the cabin with clipped one-word orders. A veteran purser likened walking past seat 14B to tiptoeing through an overhead bin minefield. Sparkling water was returned 3 separate times for wrong bubble density. Gratitude surfaced only when Prince Harry hovered nearby. The moment he strolled forward, the smile vanished like frost under a blow-dryer. Altitude wasn't the only setting for turbulence. During the Sussex's 2019 tour to South Africa, a British Airways attendant later emailed a journalist in exasperation, remembering how Meghan never once looked at baby Archie on the 11-hour haul, leaving staff and a nanny to soothe the infant while the Duchess scrolled through scripts on her tablet. When Harry popped back from first class, Meghan's warmth returned on cue, thanking attendants by name. As soon as he disappeared, conversation froze so completely that one steward joked the cabin temperature dropped 5 degrees between rows 8 and 9. Those who'd worked with Meghan long before tiaras noticed the same pattern. In 2014, while filming a low-budget Canadian indie, crew members recalled her refusing to share an airport shuttle, insisting on business class tickets on routes that didn't offer them, and even floating the idea of a private jet for a 2-hour hop when producers said no. Lighting techs heard her say, "I don't travel cattle class. My brand starts before the camera rolls." The production could scarcely afford bottled water, yet Meghan counted the imported glass bottles on set each morning to ensure her allocation hadn't been touched. It felt petty then. It sounds prophetic now. Fast forward to March 2021, when the Times reported palace aides had filed a bullying complaint against Meghan, claiming she drove 2 personal assistants out of the household and reduced a third to tears.
She's reportedly bullied virtually everybody who's ever worked for her. She can't keep a staff in London. She can't keep a staff in Montecito.
Buckingham Palace, usually slower than a horse-drawn carriage, launched a formal HR review. Findings were sealed for confidentiality, but insiders noted that staff welfare policies were quietly rewritten within months. Former Private Secretary Samantha Cohen later told Australia's Herald Sun she stayed on only because no one else would step in. The pattern, charm in public, chill in private, looked less like gossip and more like handwriting on royal parchment. That review didn't curb turnover. In June 2025, 4 more employees left the Sussex operation, including both US and UK press officers, barely a year after a communications shakeup promised fresh energy. Industry commentators called the churn the Montecito revolving door. Former staffers spoke of rigid NDAs that muzzle specifics but can't hide exhaustion. You start excited, you leave hollow. Meanwhile, Meghan's commercial flight narrative dovetailed neatly with her freshly launched lifestyle empire, As Ever, a brand built on handwritten notes, uplifting quotes, and artisanal honey from her Montecito bees. The flight crew napkin, viral within minutes, played like a perfect advert. Approachable Duchess, no private jet, scented stationary vibes at 35,000 feet. But then came the rebuttal videos. Flight attendants from other carriers stitching Nina Vida's clips, shaking their heads, mouthing PR stunt while flashing screenshots of company policies against passenger disclosure. Journalist Dan Wooten doubled down, quoting crew who called the moment pure optics, designed to drown out whispers of diva requests. Optics have long been the Sussex currency. In 2023, Spotify axed the couple's multi-million-dollar podcast deal after one 12-episode run and months of creative differences. Back-channel chatter claimed Meghan's team demanded perspective-shifting edits to every guest anecdote, ensuring she remained the moral compass in each narrative. Spotify's own New Beginnings fund quietly distanced itself within a quarter. Netflix, by contrast, still bankrolls docuseries pitches, but insiders note the streamer is tiring of brand-polish content, and pushing for more raw storytelling. Something an exec joked might require less lavender-scented lighting and more honest shadows. Back home in Montecito, even neighbors have noticed the PR push. Villas that once offered empty ocean vistas now bristle with privacy screens, drone jammers, and strategic wildflower hedges planted after a single paparazzi car zoomed by. Security consultants rotate every 6 months. Gardeners sign NDAs that cover everything from plant fertilizer schedules to overheard phone calls. One landscaper told a local coffee shop regular that he'd been instructed never to say the phrase rose pruning within earshot of Meghan because she associates roses with negative tabloid headlines. Was that real or cafe legend? By the 5th retelling, it hardly mattered. The lore fed the growing sense that every corner of her life, down to flower beds, serves a curated storyline. All the while, family ties fray, estrangement from her father, and half-siblings is yesterday's headline, but 2025 brought subtler shifts. Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland, once a staple at her daughter's launches, attended a Los Angeles music festival this spring with friends but without Meghan or Harry. Social media detectives noticed no shared selfies, no backstage shout-outs, just an evening out that passed without a single Duchess cameo. Comment threads debated the meaning, a schedule clash or a quiet cooling. Then Doria resurfaced in a YouTube interview days later, cryptically stating, "Every parent has to let their child script their own life," before pivoting to wellness tips. For a woman famed for loving affirmations, those words felt more like a polite boundary than a pep talk. In the thick of it stands Prince Harry. Body language experts who once narrated every affectionate microgesture now notice smaller, subtler cues. Half steps behind Meghan on carpets, pockets unclenched, only when she's occupied with a camera crew. Friends say he's carving out solo time, dawn paddleboarding sessions off Carpinteria, low-key veteran meetups, afternoon hikes with rescue dogs rescued from a local shelter, anywhere privacy trumps paparazzi. Psychologists call the phenomenon identity eclipse, when one partner's narrative engine revs so loudly it drowns the other's natural voice. Whether Harry feels overcast or merely sun-dappled is anyone's guess, but observers who once called him the happiest spare now describe a man careful with words, cautious with eyes. Critics argue that Meghan's philanthropic ventures, school lunch grants, mental health campaigns, women's leadership scholarships, deserve louder applause. That's fair. She does put money where her mouth is, writing checks to libraries, spotlighting Afghan girl coders, championing paid parental leave. The problem, detractors say, isn't the philanthropy. It's the contrast between public kindness and private chill. One palace aide compared it to wearing noise-canceling headphones, blasting inspirational podcasts, while waving to the crowd, never hearing the people beside you asking for basic respect. Even brand consultants admit the relatability formula is wearing thin. Social media sentiment analysis shows spikes of enthusiasm each time Meghan is photographed in a budget airline seat, but drops in trust when follow-up stories of alleged entitlement trend 2 days later. A metric called the authenticity delta, the gap between declared values and perceived behavior, widens with every PR stunt that feels too glossy. Which brings us back to the napkin in the economy cabin. Why stage such a moment? Because a 30-second clip can reset the algorithm faster than any 4-minute gossip segment can dent it. It's reputational rocket fuel, unless real people who've served you pour sand in the tank. A palace press aide once muttered over lukewarm coffee, "You can buy orchids, feed the homeless, autograph napkins, but the echo of a single mistreated staffer lasts longer than any staged smile." Brand shine, in other words, is just cabin lighting. True character shows when the seatbelt sign flicks off and no one's filming. So what did the TikTok love note really reveal? Not sainthood in the sky, nor cartoon villainy, just a masterclass in narrative control. Loyalists see authenticity, critics see a mask. But somewhere between Instagram highlights and whispered crew logs lies a simpler truth. How we treat people who can't clap back is the loudest autobiography we'll ever write. As entourages rotate and NDAs stack higher than business class baggage bins, the real question isn't whether the halo is cracked. It's how long fresh polish can keep hiding the glare. Next time a handwritten note floats across your feed, ask yourself, is it kindness or just clever cabin lighting? Drop your take in the comments. Slam that like button if you want more receipts. And hit subscribe, because the seatbelt sign for royal turbulence is still blinking overhead.